What does justice look like when the law itself is the criminal? In the heart of a decaying city, where the streets whispered secrets and the neon lights flickered like dying stars, an old woman named Clara lived quietly in a modest row house. Her skin, rich and dark, bore the lines of a life etched with struggle and resilience. She was a beacon of kindness in a neighborhood crushed under the weight of poverty and prejudice. Her porch a sanctuary where children played and neighbors found solace. But Clara's warmth couldn't shield her from the darkness that prowled in uniform, hungry for power and blind to humanity. It was a humid summer night when the sirens wailed, slicing through the stillness. Two police officers, Burke and Malone, stormed into Clara's home. They were known in the community, not for protection, but for their cruelty shakedowns, beatings, and a trail of fear targeting those whose skin didn't match their own. That night, they claimed Clara's house was a drug den, a lie spun from their own corruption. They didn't expect resistance from a frail, 70-year-old woman. But Clara, with her unyielding spirit, stood her ground, her voice steady as she demanded they leave. Burke laughed, his eyes cold, and in a moment of vicious impulse, he struck her. Clara fell, her head hitting the floor with a sickening crack. Malone stood frozen, his silence as damning as the act. They left her there, lifeless, assuming their badges would bury the truth. But Clara's son, Marcus, was no ordinary man. A ghost operative from an elite special forces unit. He moved in shadows, his existence a whisper even to those who trained him. Marcus had been away, deep in a classified mission, when the news reached him. His mother, his anchor, was gone murdered by the very system meant to protect her. Grief twisted into rage, but Marcus was no reckless avenger. His training had forged him into a weapon of precision, and he would wield it to expose the rot within the city's police force. Marcus returned to the city under the cover of night, his face obscured, his steps silent. He slipped into Clara's home, now a crime scene cordoned off with yellow tape. The air was heavy with her absence, but her spirit lingered in the photographs on the mantel, the worn Bible on her nightstand. He found traces of the officer's presence boot prints, a carelessly dropped cigarette butt. Marcus's mind worked like a machine, piecing together the scene. He hacked into the precinct's database, his fingers dancing over keys in a safe house miles away. Burke and Malone's records were a litany of complaints: excessive force, racial profiling, bribes, all swept under the rug by a complicit system. The city was a tinderbox, its people simmering with anger over years of injustice. Clara's death ignited protests, with crowds chanting her name, their signs demanding accountability. But the police chief, a man with slick words and dirtier hands, dismissed the outcry, calling it an unfortunate accident. Marcus watched from the shadows, his resolve hardening. He knew the system wouldn't deliver justice. He would have to carve it out himself. His first move was psychological. Burke, the more volatile of the two, began receiving cryptic messages, texts from unknown numbers, photos of himself at crime scenes he thought were buried. One night, he found a note on his patrol car. "Clara sees you." His bravado cracked, his hands trembling as he scanned the empty street. Malone, the quieter one, wasn't spared. Marcus infiltrated his home, leaving behind a single photo of Clara, her eyes seeming to pierce through the paper. Guilt gnawed at Malone, but fear of exposure kept him loyal to Burke. Marcus's training had taught him to exploit weaknesses, and he found plenty in the precinct. He uncovered a network of corruption officers on the take, evidence tampered with, entire communities targeted for their race. Clara's death wasn't an isolated act. It was a symptom of a disease system. Marcus leaked evidence to a local journalist, a woman named Lena who'd been chasing police corruption for years. Her exposés began to stir the city, but Marcus knew words alone wouldn't suffice. Burke and Malone needed to face consequences. He tracked them to a warehouse where they ran their side hustle extorting dealers while protecting their own. Marcus moved like a specter, disabling their security cameras with a flick of his wrist. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and arrogance. Burke was counting cash, Malone pacing nervously. Marcus's voice cut through the silence, low and deliberate. You took her from me. They spun around, guns drawn, but he was already gone, a shadow among shadows. Panic set in as their radios crackled with static. Then Clara's voice recordings Marcus had pulled from her old voicemails, now weaponized. Why did you hurt me? Her voice echoed, chilling them to the bone. Burke fired wildly into the dark, his bravado crumbling. Malone, sweat beading on his brow, begged for it to stop. Marcus didn't need to kill them. Their fear was a sharper blade. He planted evidence recordings, documents, proof of their crimes in their patrol car, ensuring it would be found. By dawn, the precinct was in chaos. The leaked evidence, combined with Lena's articles, forced an internal investigation. Burke and Malone were suspended, their names plastered across headlines. But Marcus wasn't done. He orchestrated a final reckoning. Using his skills, he lured the officers to an abandoned lot, the site of another of their crimes years ago. Under the flickering streetlights, he confronted them not as a ghost, but as Clara's son. His presence was a storm, calm yet terrifying. She was my mother, he said, his voice steady but laced with pain. And you thought you could erase her. Burke lunged, but Marcus was faster, disarming him with a fluid motion. Malone dropped to his knees, sobbing, confessing everything: their corruption, Clara's murder, the countless others they'd harmed. Marcus recorded it all, his face unreadable. He could have ended them there, and part of him wanted to. But Clara's voice echoed in his mind, her lessons of compassion over vengeance. Instead, he left them alive, broken, their confessions delivered to the FBI. The city erupted as the truth came to light, not just about Clara, but about a system that had preyed on the vulnerable for too long. Burke and Malone faced trial, their badges stripped, their power reduced to nothing. The precinct underwent a purge, with corrupt officers exposed and communities demanding reform. Marcus stood at his mother's grave, the weight of his grief unchanged. Justice had been served, but it couldn't bring her back. He thought of her smile, her strength, the way she'd taught him to see the good in people, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. Clara's death had sparked a reckoning, but it was her life, her love, her resilience that would endure. The neighborhood began to heal, with new voices rising to carry her legacy forward. Marcus slipped back into the shadows, his mission complete, but his heart forever tethered to the woman who'd raised him to fight for what was right. In the end, Clara's story wasn't just about loss. It was about the power of one life to change a city. Her death exposed the ugliness of prejudice, but her spirit reminded everyone that justice, though hard-won, was worth the fight. Marcus disappeared, a ghost once more, but his mother's light burned brighter than ever in the hearts of those she'd touched. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.